welcome everybody. I'm Trey. It's the middle of the night here in China. I'm in an awesome hotel underneath this really cool temple. I can't show you anything because it's dark, so just imagine something awesome. And we have a little hangout going here with all kinds of people. We're going to talk about photography and projects that we're working on and what's awesome about them and challenges and this sort of stuff. So let me run around and introduce some people. Some people I know, some I don't, but I'll let them, give us their little nickel tour themselves. Let's start with Cliff Blaise. Cliff, hello.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? My name is Cliff. I work for myself. I've been doing so for about 11 years. I have a website called thecreativegap.com and just like to take photos. Love HDR, and Trey's taught me a whole lot.
Yeah, you guys also, for all of you guys, put the link to your website, not just in the chat here, because only 9 people will see it, but put it in the main thread. And that way, tens of thousands of people will see it.
Okay.
So you can do that. You can do that, Cliff. Let's go say hi to the ubiquitous Shirley Lo. Hello, Shirley.
Hi, Trey. How are you?
Good.
So I'm Shirley, and this is Charles, and we were inspired by Trey to start shooting HDR.
Okay, you guys don't always have to put the little tray. It sounds like I loaded the deck with tray people, but thank you, Shirley. You don't have to say that. And let's say hi to Lotus Carroll with the pink, fuzzy, awesome earphones.
Yeah. Hey, I was not inspired to start taking photos by you, Trey.
Good.
My name is Lotus. I am a blogger, and I write and do photography freelance, live in Austin, Texas, and shoot a little bit of everything, but I love to do nature and self-portraiture.
Cool. And you just had a huge photo walk with Thomas Hawk and Scoble and a bunch of people, right?
Yeah, it was a Dell Google Plus photo walk in Austin, Texas, and we had about, I think, 130 people come out for it. It was really nice.
Cool. Well, we'll talk about that very soon here. Let's say hey to Colby Brown. Hello, Colby.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Hey, everyone. So my name's Colby Brown. I'm a full-time photographer, do nature landscape, do lots of travel. Colby Brown Photography is my website, and yeah, I know a lot of other people in the room too. Unfortunately, I wasn't inspired by Trey to become a photographer, but he definitely does good work. So there's my plug-in for you, Trey. So
well, thanks. Likewise.
Yeah.
Dave Veffer.
Hello there. My name is Dave. I am a cameraholic. And I'm a CTO at a commercial photography studio. I personally didn't really start shooting until about last year. I'm still trying, and I just really enjoy the community.
Cool. Yeah, you and Shirley Lo are major Hangout regulars, just like Christa Laser, who is sort of the Caucasian version of Shirley Lo. How are you, Christa? Tell us about you.
Good, thanks. I'm Christa Laser. I'm an incoming intellectual property litigation associate at Kirkland & Ellis, and I am not really much of a photographer. I do only automatic mode right now. So.
Okay, well, that's great. Your job sounds really boring, but if the topic comes up, which it always does in photography, it's one of my least favorite topics to discuss. I will delegate that to you because people love talking about intellectual property and copyrights in photography. That topic never gets old, does it?
Yep.
Jacob, tell us about you.
Hey guys, thanks Trey for having me in. My name is Jacob Lucas. I'm a photographer. I live in Seattle, Washington, but I'm from Australia originally. I shoot a lot of landscapes, urban architecture, and I'm starting to get into concept photography, actually, which is quite recently. And I've been somewhat inspired by Trey for my HDR stuff. There are a lot of other HDR photographers whose work I follow, like Cliff and Brian Matiash, those sorts of folks. So I've been shooting a couple of years and really finding that it's something I love and want to keep pursuing.
All right. Thank you very much. Cliff, isn't that nice to hear when someone says something that your photos... yeah, it's nice, isn't it? It's a weird feeling, but it's nice.
The other day, I just got another comment that said, artists like you and Trey are able to really bring together a scene, you know, to make it more artistic and like more to life than what it actually is. And it was just really cool to see that kind of comment.
Well, you're very good, Cliff. You deserve all the praise you get.
Yes,
Let's jump up to the top square here to Alexander from Belgium. Yes.
Yes. Hello, Trey. I'm Alexander, like you said. I'm from Belgium. I'm still a student, so I'm 17 years old. So it's not that old, I think. I'm very interested in photography, and I follow a lot of photographers here on Google+. It's very interesting to see the work of other photographers. Like I follow Shirley Lo, I think, and also you, Trey, right?
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for coming into the Hangout. And last but not least, let's say hello to Keith Barrett, who's hosting this whole show live for us. And I first met him down at Disney. We spent a great day together. Tell us about you, Keith.
Well, thank you, Trey, for having me on behalf of all the point and shoot people. I'm Keith Barrett, keithbarrett.com and keithbarrett.tv. And I'm looking forward to doing the Hangout.
All right, thank you, Keith. You're awesome. So we're going to talk about projects that we're working on. I think photographers always have little projects that they're working on, either half speed or full speed. And I'm interested in what everybody's up to, because sometimes I get ideas from other people's projects. So let's start with you, Lotus, in my hometown of Austin. What's on your docket? I think you're muted. You're muted. Google Plus calling over.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Okay. What I'm doing right now is wading through thousands of photos I took last weekend during the PhotoWalk, as well as 3 days shooting at ACL.
And what's your process when you've got over 1,000 photos? How do you organize them, and then how do you choose which one you're gonna work on?
Well, I use Lightroom, so I open up the catalog in Lightroom, and I just go through and I just make a pass like at first, and I just throw things into my collection that I want to go back. And I think I do that maybe 3 or 4 times until I've narrowed it down to the stuff I think is really good. And so I go from thousands to a few hundred.
So you have a special collection that says, I'm going to work on these, and you just drag them into that collection?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you use stars to rate them, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars, or do you just drag into a collection?
Actually, at first, I just put them in my quick collection, so I just hit B. That makes it really easy. And when I go back through, I'll assign a colored flag or something like that and just have a folder that those all go to. So I have something like a smart folder set up for a certain date range and color flag, and that will pull those all into there, since I know that's what I'm doing. So like I'd say green from like the 17th through the 19th or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And that's that smart folder, and it'll just automatically collect those.
All right. That's
and so then I can go back and just go straight to that folder and edit. And I know that that's all the stuff from those days that I chose that I liked.
All right. I understand. That's cool. That's a nice workflow. And how about you, Shirley? I know you do all kinds of photography. You mentioned HDR, but I've seen all kinds of stuff in your stream, so I know you do everything. What are you up to?
Well, thanks. Right now, we're working on meeting Plushkins in real life, and Plushkins are Trey's term for Google Plusers. And so, for example, Christa will be there, and we're going to have a DC photo walk on October 15th, and we're really excited to meet each other in real life and shoot together.
Well, cool. I don't actually call them Plushkins with an H on there. I call them Pluskins.
Oh,
When you say
okay,
Plushkins, it makes it sound like we're a bunch of furries or something.
I was actually thinking that.
Yeah, whoever was thinking that first, I don't know. Shirley, I think you're too young to know what a furry is, so don't Google it, whatever you do. Colby, you're not a furry. What are you doing?
No, I'm not a furry. I actually recently started a new organization. So I've been doing photography for about 8 years, and I'm always looking at trying to take things to the next level and be as innovative and creative as I can with kind of every different endeavor or organization or foundation that I put together. And the one that I'm working on right now is called The Giving Lens, and the basic principle is to meld photo education and giving back to local communities and developing countries around the world. So like I teach a lot of workshops all over the world, and both here locally in Denver, Colorado, where I live. And the idea was that a lot of photographers want to give back, but don't necessarily have an idea of how to do that. So what I'm trying to do is house about 5 to 8 workshops a year, all in different places around the world, starting off with Nicaragua, and I think next year I'll also be doing one in Israel and Palestine, around the Gaza Strip. And the idea is that these people pay for a low-cost workshop where the vast majority of the proceeds go back to the people that they're actually working with on the ground. We connect with one organization at a time. That organization puts together all the logistics and planning and transportation and housing and food and all that stuff. So it's all inclusive aside from the airfare. And then the people, as they're learning how to photograph, as I'm teaching a workshop, they're also working with local populations. They're, working with kids in orphanages, or like in Nicaragua, the first trip that I'm doing with an organization called Empowerment International. They actually use education to keep kids off the street and out of gangs. And part of their education is actually photography. So it's actually a really interesting concept in the sense that I will be teaching a workshop to both the people that I'm bringing down, which is about 12 people, as well as 10 Nicaraguan kids that are learning photography as well. And then they'll pair up with the participants. So it's kind of an exciting idea. It's something that hasn't really been done too well. And it's actually going really well. So I can't complain.
That's great. And so if people want to sign up for this endeavor, which sounds very noble and makes me sound like I don't do anything noble at all, which is pretty true. But if people want to sign up for your thing, where do they go, and how much is it going to cost them?
Right. So right now I'm just getting a brand new website put together, and we're about to launch before October 8th, because there's an event here in Denver, Colorado, where I'll be a keynote speaker about photography and education. Long story short, if you actually go to thegivingLens.com, there's a sign up for basically an announcement for when the website launches, which, as I mentioned, will be here in the next probably 3 weeks, hopefully. And the trips are going to vary, but I'm trying to keep them as low cost as possible, working in countries that allow it to be feasible. So I'm thinking anywhere between $1,600 and $2,200 for an all-inclusive trip, aside from airfare, which is typically about a third to half what most international workshops are, which usually range $4,000 to $6,000. So that's about it.
Okay, cool. And I guess if people circle you on Google Plus, they'll find out.
Yeah, definitely.
More.
If you circle me on Google Plus, it's all over my website, which again is colbybrownphotography.com, and then the main website where all information involving the Giving Lens will be at thegivingLens.com. So. All
right. I dig it. Jacob, what's up with you lately? What projects are you working on?
So, with my landscape stuff, I've often found that I try to shoot it for HDR, but in the last 3 months, I've found myself somewhat organically growing away from that and using things like filters and just single exposure shots to process. I don't know if that's just the way I'm looking at things that's changing and whatnot, but I started doing something when I was traveling recently in Nevada to sort of get back into the HDR process, because it's a process that I really, really enjoy. So I found I went shooting in this ghost town outside of Las Vegas called Nelson, Nevada. I don't know if anyone's ever been there, but it's there's a town there, and then there's a tourist spot where they have like a bunch of places where you can just go and walk through. I don't know if it's completely man-made or somewhat there, but it's filled with broken down old cars and barns that are just empty or filled with lots of, knickknacks and old machinery and things like that that are just broken down. So I saw this town before I went. I'm like, I'll take one lens, one camera, and just shoot all these different subjects with that one lens to try and get my HDR eye and process sort of flowing again. And I ended up using a 15mm fisheye against like right up and close in front of a lot of old rusted cars that either didn't have wheels or were missing doors, things like that are like really rich in texture. So I'm going through about a dozen to 1.5 dozen different cars there just left to rot in nature. So I'm sort of going through those and processing pictures to sort of build up a series from this ghost town. So
excellent. That sounds like a good project. Was it? What was the sky like that day? Because the sky is so important.
Yeah, no, it was. And when we got there, it was forecast for rain, and I was like, oh no! And it was this blanket white sky. I didn't expect rain in the desert outside of Vegas, but it was just blanket white. So there was really no texture in the sky that could be brought out by HDR. But as I was out there from 11 a.m. through sunset, and the sky sort of opened up over the course of the day, so there were like fluffy white clouds flying over. Ultimately, the first couple hours were just sort of white and things like that. But as the day got on, the sky got more interesting, and it definitely got better as I waited for the weather to come in.
So you said you've been playing with a lot of other filters. Which ones are you? Do you have some new go-to filters that you like?
Actually, I'm writing a post on this now. I just started using a circular polarizer for some of my landscape stuff. And I was out on Queen Anne Hill, near where you were when you were in Seattle, I think, at a place called Kerry Park. And I shot sort of looking south over the city skyline of Seattle. And there was Mount Rainier there in the background. But I don't know if anyone's familiar with circular polarizers, but they help you to really let in certain, I'm not sure exactly how it works, but certain wavelengths of light, I think it is. And by turning the front of the filter, it actually makes, if you're a correct angle to the sun, it makes the picture in the background that much more clearer and vibrant. So looking at the skyline with the mountain was actually really, really faint in the background, a little hazy. You couldn't quite see it. But by using this circular polarizer, it actually brought out a lot of the texture in the mountain, so it was actually quite visible in the photograph, which was cool.
So when you talk about filters, you're talking about actual filters that go on the camera.
Yes, yes. Are you thinking like?
No, I thought you meant because you said I used to do HDR, but I've been starting to use other filters. I was still thinking software. Yeah.
Well, this is all in camera.
And this circular polarizer, does it have a thing on the front that you spin around, like one of those variable ND filters?
Yeah, let me grab it real quick. It's just right here.
Yeah, show us.
It's my fault that Jacob got his circular polarizer.
Oh, did you give him that idea?
What's that?
I blame you entirely.
Yeah. I like making Jacob spend money.
Those are good things to be blamed for, though. Photo gear.
Yeah, we don't need much of an excuse to get gear, do we?
That's true.
So it's on the front of my lens right now. This is my 2470. And so I don't know if you guys can sort of see through that. It's a little,
yes.
Yeah, and then the front of the lens, the filter there, you can't quite see it. But this, instead of being like a UV filter, it's just this one piece. The front ring actually turns, and I don't know if you can see my face getting clearer or darker. Not quite.
Do you have sunglasses? That'll help demonstrate it.
It's actually very similar to the way that polarized sunglass lens works. Yeah, that's right. So you turn the front of the lens to allow different degrees of light, and you can actually, through the camera, see the sky going bluer and the background getting clearer. So, I mean, things like that sort of allow you to, I mean, one of the goals of HDR is to let all the details come out. And when I shot that scene of Rainier, it was without the polarizer. It was in the aim of that to try and bring all the details out. But when I shot one photo with just the polarizer on, I actually found myself preferring the look of the single exposure more. The colors were just that much more vibrant through one single exposure. The mountain was clearer too, which was a good addition to the photo. Am I still coming through?
Hey Jacob, if you turn your webcam towards your screen, you can actually demonstrate the effect of the circular polarizer.
Oh yeah, good call.
What do you want to do?
If you take your webcam, point it towards your screen and then put the polarizer up as if it was on the camera. Make sure it's facing the right way, and then turn it until you'll see the screen go black.
I don't really have a way to hold. So that's looking through it. Let me see if I can do this.
Trey, I think you're muted. We see your mouth moving, but we don't hear you.
I'm turning the filter now, and it's not really working. Oh.
There it goes. There, now you see a reflection of Jacob instead of the screen.
Ah, very interesting. I want to see more of that Dave Veffer screensaver he has running.
My screen back, so...
Oh, okay, that's him in the Hangout. I thought he had a giant picture of Dave Veffer on the second monitor.
Doesn't everybody?
Yeah. That's funny.
Only $5.99.
So before I go to Alexander, I want to ask you other guys, we could do screen sharing now with this extras part of the Hangout. So if you have some new photos you've worked on that you want to share or tell people about, go ahead and queue them up and you can share them soon. All right. So Alexander, are you the kind of photographer that might be working on a project, or are you just kind of goofing around?
Well, I'm pretty new to photography, so I'm still trying to figure out how the different styles of photography, like HDR, like portraits, more or less. Try to figure out my way and my style and my to have certain feeling to my pictures that's mine. If you understand what I mean.
Yeah, so you just feel like you're trying to come up with a style, or you're just kind of experimenting, it sounds like.
Yes.
Good.
Bought my...
Just feel like you're trying to come up with a style, or you're just kind of experimenting, it sounds like.
Yes.
Uh-oh. It sounds like Michael has come in and he is not quite muted.
He's probably watching the stream in the background.
Yeah, I think he probably was. Caller, turn down your radio. Christa, now you're not known as a photographer, even though you're going on this photo walk with your cute little red camera.
Yeah, this is...
That's it. So do you feel like you know how to use that thing?
No, I just use automatic mode. I've tried messing with the settings and have not figured it out, so I'm not much of a photographer.
All right. Well, when you meet with Shirley, you'll have to hand that over to her, and Shirley, you can put her in a good mode.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Christa will be great in front of and behind the camera too. So yeah.
You too.
Thanks.
All right, you guys can have your little Estro Fest later. And Michael, you have joined us. Michael Himmelwin, where are you coming from? Over.
Now I'm from Atlanta, but now I'm at the San Francisco.
Okay, and what do you do in San Francisco?
Vacation.
Vacation. All right.
Yes.
Everyone likes vacation. Excellent. Well, welcome. So does anybody have any recent photos they want to share with us and tell us about them a little bit? Who's first? How about you, Cliff? You must have something in the hopper you can share with us.
Yeah, I just finished one up. Let's see here.
Do you know how to share your screen? Click share screen, and then you get to pick which screen gets shared.
Oops.
It looks like you're sharing your whole desktop, which is cool.
It's so small.
It's so small.
Oops.
Oh, you're sharing your Google Plus screen. Aha. Okay, tell us what we're looking at here.
Okay. This is a shot I got at the Grand Canyon when I was, after Burning Man. Of course, I met my wife back in Vegas for Photoshop World. And then after we left there, we stopped at the Grand Canyon for photo awesomeness. So this is just one of the lookouts there on the trail. And you might recognize some of the textures I used from your texture tutorial. But yeah, I just thought it came out nice.
Thank you. I should have gone to you because you always sound like a plant.
I'm sorry.
You're welcome to show stuff that doesn't involve me at all. You know, I appreciate it, but really, I'm
well,
serious.
no, I just I just finished. I just did this today.
Yeah.
And needed a little texture on it, so what a better.
No, I know
place
what you mean. The sky comes out plain sometimes. You want to trick it up.
Yeah.
I know. I'm with you.
You know, I was not sure about posting it. You know, but yeah, I don't know. Anyway.
No, it looks sharp. Anything else you want to show us while you've got your thing up?
Well, yeah, hang on. I'll do this one again. So this was of course Horseshoe Bend in Page, Arizona, and it just all came together. One of those epic shots with the storm coming in to the left and catching the lightning strike and everything. So just real happy with that one too.
It's a great shot, man.
Excellent. Let's jump over to Jacob. Jacob, do you have anything you want to share?
Yeah. Sorry, I dropped out there. Let me figure out the share screen thing so I get to pick an application. All right. Is this coming through?
Yep.
Yeah, we see
it. So because we're here on Google Plus, I wanted to share a couple images. One, this was from...
Uh-oh.
We lost audio on Jacob there.
It is Seattle someplace, though. We'll revisit him soon. How about you, Shirley? Do you have something that you can share with us?
Sure, I'm going to try to bring it up. So share screen, and then you pick your window, and then share selected window. Can you
Don't
see
pretend like you're not a Hangout expert.
Oh, I'm just talking it through to make sure it doesn't
Okay.
go through. So yeah, this is the photo we have behind us as a poster print. And it's Acadia. It's in Acadia by Acadia. It's a lighthouse in Maine. And a lot of people summer there. There's great lobsters and crabs and blueberries. And so yeah, this is an HDR. There's a blend of 3 exposures.
That's beautiful.
Thank you, Christa.
Yeah, it looks great for 3 exposures. I'm impressed.
Thanks, Trey.
Very cool. Colby, do you have something awesome you can show us?
Yeah, sure.
By the way, you guys don't just have to show us one thing. You can show us 1, 2, or 3 things. But don't worry, we'll let you know if you're boring us, but nobody is so far.
Well, let me try to get this up here.
Okay. Welcome, Simon. We're playing a show and tell. We're showing off recent photos and telling a little about them. We're waiting for one of Colby's to pop up. All right, here we go.
All right, so I recently spent about 27 days working in the Himalayas around Everest in the Khumbu region, both in Nepal and Tibet. And this is a shot I took just as I was about to cross over Chola Pass, which is about 19,000 feet. This is looking down the valley. Looking straight in the middle is actually Amadablam, which is a famous mountain in the specific region. Yeah, and it was, I don't know, it's beautiful. I love working out there. I usually go out there every few years, and this is certainly one of my favorites. And then let's see if I can actually close this out and bring another one up.
It's a great one.
Thank you.
19,000 feet, that's crazy.
Yeah, I like altitude. Let's see, here's one more I'll share with you guys. Same trip. Let's see if this works. Doesn't seem to want to.
Yes, we see it.
There we go. I have an affinity for black and white, especially with mountainscapes, and it usually works pretty well in the Himalayas just because of the intense altitude and the crazy blue skies you get. So this is actually Mount Kumari, which is just the backdrop to a little village called Gorik Shep, which is basically the launching point to get to Everest Base Camp. And this is about this was shot at about I think 16,000 feet. It's one of the most beautiful mountains in the region, and it's actually one that I ended up getting printed out, and I actually use it as an advertising. Let me pull this off. So on my, I have one of the new MacBook Airs, and it's one of the shot that goes on there. So when I'm working in public and whatnot, it helps a little bit to have the little name recognition.
Cool.
So.
It looks kind of blue.
It's
when you held it up.
Because of the hue, it actually looks purple, and it just depends on the light that you're looking at it in. Like when there's like no incandescent light, it actually looks black and white. But when you have kind of a little bit dodgy light, like I have here in my office, then it ends up having a little bit of a purple hue or bluish hue to it.
Yeah. And where did you have that printed? I'm sorry if you said.
This was actually at Gela Skins. I think it's Gela Skins, and it was like $30. But it's high quality stuff. It's nice. Yeah, I like plus it protects the screen from the front of your laptop, so you can do it in any size for different types of stuff. And yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, that's a good company. I've always pronounced them Gela Skins.
It might be Gela Skins, maybe Gela Skins. I thought there was one L, maybe there's two L's.
Gelin.
No, I think it is one L, but I always thought it was a soft G, like gel. But
you're probably
really
right. As Dave knows, Dave actually Veffer in the group here. He's my main editor for a lot of my stuff that I push out there, and he knows full well that my spelling ability isn't exactly top notch. So.
No. Let's say we have a new guy that joined us here, Simon Gelfand. How are you, Simon?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Where are you?
I'm in Israel.
Israel. What do you do in Israel to stay busy?
I work on an internet company.
Okay.
Actually.
Do you want to plug them or anything?
Do I plug?
Do you want to plug them? The secret?
No, it's good. No, you can see it on my profile on Google Plus. No, it's not. But I'm here for the photography, not for that.
Okay, cool. Are you a photographer?
Well, trying to be. Hobbies.
Okay. Well, if anyone says anything at any time, by the way, this is very free form. Everyone should know that you can ask anything anytime, and so be our guest, no problem.
So I have a photo here I just took in San Francisco, actually, at a hotel I stayed at.
All right, we'll share it. Let's check it out.
Where is this?
Ah, look at that. I will assign Shirley Lo to critique this. Go, Shirley, go.
Critique it? Well, I see it's an HDR, so that's great. And there's a lot of colors. It's an interesting perspective. I see it's a little bit lower, and there's some angling going on. It's not the stereotypical, dead-on center shot, eye level. It's actually lower and to the left, so that makes for an interesting view. The colors are just wonderful. The contrast between the colorful tiles, and then the left side you have a more muted colors. But yeah, and then the ceiling and the floor is neutral colors. And so overall, it's a very pleasing photos and something to look at.
Cool. Gee, Shirley, I was a little worried you wouldn't have anything to say when I put you on the spot. I love it. You had about 9 bullet points just sitting there in your prefrontal. That was great.
Thanks, Trey.
No, it is a good photo. Go ahead, Christa.
So because I'm not, familiar with a lot of the photography techniques, I'm curious with the light up on the upper left, how it's making like a watery effect. I assume that's not the original look of how that light shone on the ceiling and, with your bare eyes. Is that ineffective using HDR or?
It's just the HDR bringing it out. The light is there. If you just look on the left, you'll see the actual light, and it's a reflection of the textures. But the HDR just brings out the reflections much stronger. But you can see it with your eyes.
Did you do something in post? so that it's skewed because
No.
your leaning lines lean in the same direction on both sides, which is unusual.
No, there's nothing changed with the perspective post.
Did you aim the wide angle up and tilt it?
It's possible it was a little tilted. I'm looking at it now. I don't think it's completely straight, but it's aimed to the kind of from the left.
Yeah.
Very wide. It's a 10 millimeter lens on a DX, so it's pretty wide. So it's about 15 on a full frame, I think.
Cool.
But I had to wait a while. If you look inside, the door's open, so you can see right into all the way into the restaurant. So it took a while, but I like it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for sharing that. I'll share one of mine. I took this here at the Great Wall just today, or well, like less than 24 hours ago. And I did most of my work there with a wide-angle lens, but I also brought a zoom lens, and I got this one of a little ruined part of the wall. And this is just after the sun went down. And, you know, the sky, the weather is kind of not so great in Beijing, or outside of Beijing even. It's got this weird sort of murky, polluted,
smog.
Smoggy type stuff. Although I don't know if I would call it smog necessarily, because there's not a lot of people way out here. Usually the smog stays local around the buildings and stuff, but there is something that's smog-like going on. I don't really know enough to be authoritative about it, but anyway, it does make for some really cool light in these situations. It's not quite fog, but it's cool. I think this is at about 200 or 300 millimeter. And that was the real color of the sky. It was all pink like that, with little hills in the distance.
It's cool.
So there's that. Does anyone else have anything else they want to share? Alexander, do you have something?
No, not for the moment.
I have a little something before and after type thing to show. If
Please do.
All right, let's get it up here. All right, so this is the original before I processed the shot. I was at my in-laws' house one day just for a kid's birthday party, and I was relaxing in a chair on the porch, and I looked over at the neighbor's house, and they had this really cool weather vane, so I decided to just, get a few shots of it. And I was looking back a couple months later at my shots because I didn't really think I got anything, and I thought, this is kind of a neat shot. I really like the way the ball is lit up there with the glass ball, and so this is before, and then I did some post-processing and Photoshop trickery and put an orange sky behind it and cropped in tight, and I flipped the whole shot so that it kind of read better with the end on the left, and this was the final result.
Cool. And
you got to show the next one after that, Dave. You got to show the metal print that you got made.
Okay. So let me stop sharing my screen. So then over there is the metal print.
Oh, that's cool. And was that kind of like your first piece of art you ever kind of created and hung up?
Yeah. First photo, yeah.
Did that feel kind of awesome?
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I got some people that come in and see it, and they're like, oh, wow, I like that. And it's nice to hear.
Yeah. They're like, Dave, you're so artsy. I didn't know this side of you.
Yeah, right.
That's cool. And where did you get it printed at?
Bay Photo through SmugMug.
All right. Are you a SmugMug kind of guy?
I'm a very much SmugMug kind of guy. I'd like to work there someday.
Oh, you would?
Yeah, I'm willing to move to work there. From New Jersey to California.
Good. Do you know those guys that run it?
I've interacted with several of them on Plus. I've hung out with Don a couple times in the early Google Plus days when he was still doing Hangouts and whatnot.
Yeah. Well, they're growing pretty fast. They do. They've got a super active community, and Scott Jarvie was on here. He had to go to church, and he couldn't join us, but he's super involved with the community. They have all these kind of user meetings, and I'm sure you get involved at that level to start, if nothing else.
Yeah, it's something I've considered, but you know, I think he's involved in a sense where he teaches kind of the workshop type of thing, photography wise, which is, you know, I'd like to get a job doing, you know, IT kind of stuff or whatever with them.
All right.
But I could certainly be involved and get my name out there by going to some smugs in the area or whatever. And
yeah. So I guess I just know a little bit about the technology. Maybe you know more than I do. I'm kind of curious. Is it just sort of a smart layer on top of S3?
That's kind of a simple way to look at it. They're basically S3 they're using for just the storage end of it. What they're using is a lot of the EC2 instances, which is like the virtual machines basically on Amazon. Right. And they have like this whole intelligent system built and designed that basically during busy times when photographers are uploading a ton of stuff like on Sunday night, they spin up a whole lot more instances to handle that load. And then they can scale it all the way back, you know, when they don't need to, and save a lot of money by doing that. And same thing with the storage.
So they don't even run their servers. They run them all on EC2.
Not everything. I believe they run their SQL servers all in-house still because they're not getting the kind of throughput they need for that.
I see. Is that a complex situation to take your local SQL servers inside your office and then have them talk to the EC2 servers?
I'm sure it is. It's probably it's not too complicated, but I'm sure it's not just a one connection type thing, you know. But they have as far as I know, they have a pretty big little data center of their own where they're housing all their stuff.
Yeah, it's quite an operation over there. It's a cool company. I like those guys. Does anyone else here use SmugMug?
Well, I recently got a kind of quasi-sponsorship with them, and I'm just working on porting over my portfolio and online store to their servers, keeping my main website as it is, kind of like what you do with Stuck in Customs.
And what did you do before SmugMug?
I had a proprietary system that was built by the guy that designed my website. And it worked well, but I was limited in a handful of different options when it came to selling my work and different types of stuff. So it was kind of a good opportunity that happened at the right time, and just trying to find more hours in the day in order to port it over.
So all your prints, once you move them over to SmugMug, you're going to make them for sale. People from the public can buy them.
Yeah, and I mean I do that now, and I do. I mean, majority of my business from photography is photo education, as I was mentioning earlier. But I certainly do make a decent amount from print sales. I also do a lot of gallery work in different places all over the U.S. and sometimes in Canada. So right now, basically, it comes into my the order comes into my system to my email. Then I gotta manually put the order in. Currently, I use Miller's Lab, who's a great company. They're the parent company, I think, of MPix. They do great stuff. Never had any problem with any of their prints. But the system is just I'm too busy these days, and I just can't keep up with it. So utilizing the automation with SmugMug and having them go through Bayphoto, who I actually really enjoy as well, just kind of makes my life easier. And these days, I'm all about making my life as easy as possible. I think last time we talked, my wife was about to have our kid, and I now have a little baby boy that is 36 days old, and it's definitely a handful to keep up with that, and as well as all the travel that I do and whatnot. So easier is better.
So you're going to abandon the old system and go to the new SmugMug system, and are you going to keep the price points the same? How much does it cost if I want to buy like that black and white one that you put up earlier? If I want to get like something that's 36 inches across, how much would that cost?
Well, I do I mean, that's typically like 24 by 36. So on my pricing, I haven't looked at it in a bit, but I want to say it's about, I think that's $375 for one of those. And I know SmugMug, as I'm sure you know, does take a small cut of the sales. In all honesty, I probably will keep the prices the same. I don't need to jack up my prices. As I mentioned, you know, print sales are not my #1 source of income, and any extra help from me not having to deal with it, I think makes more sense to keep it at the same price and just port it over so that it's easier for me on the back end for logistics and whatnot.
Yeah, I think print sales are always very elusive for photographers.
Definitely. A lot of people don't know how to price their stuff. They don't know their competition. They don't know what it's worth. And it's all kind of very subjective. And you kind of need to, Well, a lot of research, I think, helps figuring out where your competition is at and kind of figuring where you feel comfortable charging for your work. But I know a lot of too many people, especially new photographers, give away their work for free all the time, and yeah. It's definitely kind of somewhat of an issue depending on your price structure. So.
Hey, Cliff, why don't you tell everyone about your photo life, because it's interesting. I think it's a place where a lot of photographers like to get, where you have, you've got a really good client, you've got a couple of really good clients, and you can say who they are because they're very well known. It's kind of awesome you have them as a client, and then talk about how you balance that with your personal work, because you still get lots of time for your personal work.
Yeah, that was something I was going to talk about here. Before I went on my massive 4,000-mile journey to the desert, I did a weekend photo shoot for Tony Lama Boots at their national sales meeting here about 50 miles away. So they got a room for me. It was actually 2 days where I had to do one full day of shooting the sales meeting and then the award ceremony at night. And then the next day, going out and shooting their golf tournament. So it was about 18 hours worth of work. And then I just spent all day yesterday processing these photos from this shoot. So another 8 hours on top of that. And I just don't know what to charge them. I don't know. Normally, because that's the thing, I do these art photos, and I would go out and do one photo that I set up for, and then come home and spend time processing and making it awesome. And you would charge like Colby was saying. Well, what I do is charge like 3 times how much it costs to get it printed. So if it's $100 to get it printed, then it'd be like $300 or $400 to sell. So just doing that one photo would get me that, but then I just spent like all day shooting 1,000 photos. So I don't even know where to start as far as pricing goes on something like that. And another thing is I shoot their boots, one boot at a time, $75 a pop, bam, bam, bam. It's not like I can exactly charge $75 for each photo that I took on this trip. It cost them $75,000. So where's the balance here? Where's what? I don't know.
Well, what rights are they getting? Are they just for print, or are you talking about just licensing images out?
Well, rights. I mean, I don't care about these photos. They don't mean anything to me. There's portraits and people talking and groups of people, and so as far as rights, they can have them. I don't care.
But is your final product that you're delivering to them a physical print, or are you sending just digital high-res files that basically, in reality, what you're doing is obviously transferring copyright to let them do whatever they want to?
Yeah, it's digital high-res. They'll have me do a couple of prints where, like the group photo, I'll take it in Photoshop and do like Tony Lama National Sales Meeting 2011 and do their logo and stuff like that on it, and then have those printed and put that together as a complete package. That's no problem. But it's just this other, I'm handing everything over to them for them to use for whatever.
It's funny. I think I don't know if photographers see it this way, but a lot of clients, I think, want the licensing more than they want the prints, frankly, because they want to be able to put it on all kinds of different mediums and things like that.
Right.
And so I think you might be able to get a lot more if you talk to them about in terms of licensing instead of in terms of prints. People, I think, are a little bit. I mean, and I would have to see the photographer's experiences with this, but I get the impression that what clients care about are the licenses.
Yeah, and two, this is like a customer I've had for over 10 years, so they're like, we're like have a very established relationship, so. If I went off and charged them, crazy money, like, I don't know. I just don't know.
Well, when you're doing something like that, and this is just from my experience, doing contract work on occasion, when you're doing a vast number like that, it's almost impossible to try to get the value per image.
Right.
And, value of images, first off, are very subjective and usually much higher rated by the artist themselves than actually someone willing to purchase it. However, when you're doing something like this, I charge per hour. So my going rate is anywhere between $100 to $150 per hour, and that is shooting time. And then typically I equate in at least probably 60 to 70% of what it would be for editing time. Now, if you're just passing over regular files, that's a little bit different. So if it's a 10-hour shoot, it's $100 an hour. That's $1,000. If I have to really go into edit them, maybe I'll add another $200 or $300 into the mix. It just depends, because you can't do it per image. You're gonna drive yourself crazy, and no one's gonna buy it, because no one's gonna buy $75 an image.
Right. Well, what I figured up was, the 18 hours, I normally charge them, which I have been for 10 years now, $85 an hour. So, because they give me so much work, I can charge them that for 40 hours a week if I so chose. That's another issue. But what I figured was, not including the time I spent the night there, but it wasn't really my choice to be there or not. So what I charged for the downtime, anyway, what I came up with is about $2,400 for the day and a half shoot. Does that sound?
How does that break down for the hours that you were actually shooting? Typically, when I'm charging and invoicing a client, it's hours shot and then it's hours edited. Now, anything additional is going to be expenses. So obviously the expense of your hotel room, and that's obviously added into the invoice.
I just had to show up. So They paid for my meals, they paid for hotel, everything else. So
then, yeah, you don't have that. So I mean, how does that break down? So if you shot for 10 hours, so 10 hours divided, you said $2,400.
It was about the 12-hour day plus another 6-hour golf tournament. So I'd say 18 hours of shooting and then another 8 hours of editing came out to that, the
24.
Yeah, 26 hours.
26 hours.
So about 2,200, then rounded up to $2,400. I figured, that might be.
Is that worthwhile for your time? I mean, that's the question that it comes down to. And again, it comes down to the subjectivity of the value for what you're doing, I mean, if it's a long client, obviously that's a challenge, because, I also know many clients that I've worked for years that will happily try to take advantage of the time. And for my business, I've only grown in size since, 10 years ago when I first started. So I'm more busy now. So they may want a bigger discount now, and I may honor a similar price. But in reality, my time is more valuable now than it was 8 years ago.
Yeah, so. And mine is too. But it's one of those things. Once you start working with someone, and they're almost like they expect you to never change, or
for sure
give them like the brother-in-law price or whatever like that.
What, you double?
Yeah. So.
Well, 2,400 is not bad, man. I mean, it's not a bad number. It's just, I think you need to make sure that you're okay with that number, and it doesn't necessarily matter what the client is. As long as you feel you're not getting taken advantage of, then it doesn't really matter. It's okay to give deals or work with past clients or whatnot, but ultimately you need to, if you're sleeping at night and you're okay with 2,400, then that's great. Then it's kind of case closed.
Well, the sad thing is like, I want all that money to go towards camera gear.
Yeah, just ask them to pay you in lenses.
Yeah, pay me in lenses. But it's really, I mean, they too need to understand that that's my motive. So anything I charge is going to do nothing but better myself for their next shoot. So
it's hard to educate clients on that, but I wish you well, for sure.
One thing I'm curious about with a lot of the way that photographers price is that, when you were mentioning the issues of whether you're just giving them prints or whether you're giving them licenses and things like that, a lot of times the photographers and the clients have different things as to what really matters to them. And so that's why it's important to maybe talk with them and see, is there something zero sum about this, or is it non-zero sum? Is it something where maybe you can get just as much value out of it if you are giving them the license versus not giving them the license, and they might be willing to pay you more for that, even though that's not something that you care about. So, you might want to look into that. And yeah, I'm always curious when some photographers who charge by the hour are giving, maybe like an at cost print rate on top of that, or they'll give a certain number of prints included with it, or something like that, and some give licenses included with the hourly rate. So it's hard to determine.
It's all based on incentives, I think, and when it comes down to that, and in my experience, that's why most photographers do something like that. It's, hey, it's $100 an hour, but at the end of the day, you'll get a 24 by 36 print. It's very common in portrait and wedding photography, I think. But I don't know. It all comes down to subjectivity, and Cliff, as I'm sure you're well aware of, and I know Trey definitely knows this because he licenses all of his work. Educating your clients on the value of your work is a challenge, but is vital, because most people don't understand the value of a photograph anymore these days. You know, if you can go into a stock photography agency and you know, buy the cover of, you know, Time magazine for $15, whereas 15 years ago, you know, it was a $3,000 purchase. That obviously the market is different these days, and there still is value in images, especially in creative and unique ones, or something like this that is, you know, no one else has these shots. But it all comes down to educating, and like I said, you got to be comfortable at the end of the day. I mean, a lot of people, I get this question a lot. I'm sure Trey gets it a lot. You know, how do you price your stuff? How do you value your hourly rate? And it all comes down to what you're comfortable with. You know, if you're first starting out, you're probably not going to be getting $100 an hour, and B, feel very comfortable with your type of work. But you know, your work is great, Cliff, and you do good stuff, and it's a client you've been happy with for a long time. And you know, $85, you know, breaking down over an 18-hour span seems about right. $2,400, you're sleeping well at night, then like I said, I wouldn't fret too much about it. But you know, educating your clients and then making sure you're okay with it, and then move on to the next project, I'd say. It's
just a transition. You know, originally I was only shooting product photography, and now that they see, like, they go to my SmugMug site and see what type of artistic photos that I'm able to put together, and they're like, whoa, maybe, you know, you can do some lifestyle shots, or, you know, like I said, they hired me to do their national sales meetings. So as I'm starting to do more and more of these things, I just need to know that I'm not selling myself short as far as when I get to do, like, projects that require my being away from creating other art photos, you know, to doing what they want me to do, you know.
Right. Oh, definitely.
Balance that.
It's a fun challenge.
Yeah.
Hey, Christa, for new photographers that are, you know, just getting their first client, and they've got these sort of licensing and copyright type questions, and they need to get a contract in place, and let's say it's a medium or small size client and they don't have any of these forms ready to go. Would you recommend that these new photographers would go someplace like LegalZoom.com and get sort of a default licensing agreement? Or do you think that they should get something more draft in a custom way from a real attorney like you?
Well, I guess, I don't know. I mean, I can't specifically recommend one or another, but I would recommend that if you are having issues, you should talk to a lawyer, and they don't have to be that expensive. You can find a local lawyer through the bar association in your state. If you just go to the bar association website, like type into Google, you know, let's say if you live in Maryland, type in Maryland Bar Association, and they should have a search function that you can search for lawyers, and you can ask them all, you know, what's your fee, and is this something that you do a lot of work in? And I mean, I don't know. Some people do like LegalZoom and stuff, but I'm not in a position to recommend any particular group.
So before you were a lawyer, would you have recommended LegalZoom.com? Or is that question impossible to answer because of your current status?
Yeah, I really can't recommend that for people. And frankly, the responsible thing to say, the reason I can't recommend it is that the responsible thing to say is to tell people everyone should individualize it, because you can get into trouble if you use a standard form.
Yes, I agree with that. I do agree with that. Shirley, do you do much client work or license your work, or what's your story?
Well, yeah, I guess overall, we're just trying to, we do prints, obviously, and as far as all that stuff, we're thinking about licensing and all that, but primarily the number one goal is to have fun and enjoyable, like, a situation with this. When it becomes, like, too much of a burden, that's when I just have to weigh it and, you know, pull back and weigh all the consequences of everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. Have you, you're on SmugMug too, yes?
I don't sell through SmugMug, but I do
Oh,
hear it's
who
a
do you
great
sell through?
product online and individually and talking to people.
I see. So people might like your
Word
work
of
and they
mouth.
contact you through email and
Right.
you work something out. I see.
Right.
I see. That makes sense. Hey, Keith, have you popped up with any questions, or you have any anything rambling around your big brain?
Well, there's been a couple of discussions. There was one about how do you do ±2 exposures on a point-and-shoot camera, and I think the chat room pretty much said since it's JPEG, they don't think that you can do anything worthwhile with that.
Well, I'll let Shirley Lo answer that one.
Fair. Yeah, like you could actually do it in RAW or JPEG. So, I mean, you've seen people take HDRs on iPhones, right? I mean, it's really not the megapixel deal. It's kind of overblown about, you know, the quality. You could take really good pictures. I mean, people have done great things. I know Vic posted a photo of someone who took an HDR on their iPhone. You can definitely do it on a point and shoot. Pretty much any camera, as long as it's good, you could just take different exposures and combine them all together, and then you can get your own HDRs.
I don't know what percentage of consumer cameras that do auto bracketing do plus and minus, but I bet
You might have to do
most
that
of them
manually.
do.
Yeah, like you would have to change
Yeah.
it manually.
More and more are coming out with auto bracketing.
Yeah, for the consumer. Yeah, a lot of the consumer ones are trying to do that auto. But if they don't have it on their existing camera, you can always just change it manually and combine the exposures later on.
Exposure compensation.
Yeah, can they hear you?
Can you say it?
No,
Just-
just
We can
talk
hear you.
into the mic.
Yeah, you could always use the exposure compensation feature and just get -2 and +2, and then just shoot your 3 that way.
Yeah, I think so, and that would work. I always worry that one of the big problems with these consumer cameras is that everyone is just doing handheld, and then by the time you look down at it and mess with all the dials, you're so far off on your next exposure
Yeah,
that you may not be able to auto align because you've really changed.
Yeah, that's true. Like set it on the floor or a wall or a tripod to get around that. But yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, well, here's a little piece of advice. I don't have it with me, unfortunately, but I was holding this water bottle and thinking about it. If you have a little camera, they have Photo Jojo has a bottle cap tripod, and it will fit on any water bottle. So you just fill it with water or whatever, then it's stable, and it's not heavy duty, but it's fine for these little rectangular Japanese cameras, and you can use that to have a little impromptu tripod. I don't put my D3X on top of a water bottle, but I always have it with me just in case I have a tripod meltdown.
You can get one of those 5-gallon water bottles and get some sort of cap for that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I was just mentioning on Shirley's wall that for the DC PhotoWalk, some of the museums don't allow tripods, and some of the
That is
monuments
true.
don't allow tripods. And so I wonder if they would allow a water bottle tripod. That might work.
It might work.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, definitely. That's something to consider. Go ahead.
Yeah, I read on the Smithsonian website about their security policy, and it appears that none of the museums allow tripods or monopods.
Yeah, and even the non-Smithsonian museums, like the art museum, that you still have to check it all into the lockers. So it's probably advisable for people not to bring tripods, and definitely like something like the water bottle, or improvise some kind of tripod.
Yeah,
Find something next to you.
One
Yeah,
can
go ahead.
always say that a water bottle is not a monopod.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it just depends. Yeah.
It's just a cap, right? So you just switch the cap, keep the
Yeah.
cap in your pocket or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Dave, since we're on Google Plus here, I want to ask you, what do you think about all these new people coming to Google Plus? What's your perspective on all this new activity in the past week?
Oh, I think it's great. I've seen like a little influx of followers. I'm not sure if that's because of the new people coming in or a combination of that and Colby kindly putting my name as editor on his guide. So I think people go to his guide first, all the newcomers, and then they click on me through there. But I think it's great that we're getting more people in.
Yeah, I think it's great too. How about you, Keith? You're a student of social media there at Disney. What do you think of all this Google Plus activity?
Well, I did see a big influx of people as soon as the invites went public and Google changed their search engine page to have that little arrow pointing up. So no, I think it's great. I think it's great that it's out of beta, and I can encourage more people over. At the same time that happened, Facebook made a bunch of changes, and whether you consider the changes good or bad, they frustrated a lot of people because the changes are coming so rapidly without notice. So I think some people are trying it for the first time because of both of those events.
Yeah, the Facebook thing is pretty wild too. Colby? What are you doing with Facebook? Are you doing double duty on Google Plus and Facebook?
Well, yes and no, in the sense that I have a profile and I also have a business page. But like, I only really go over to Facebook to upload photos of my newborn son or see what my sister is doing. You know, my grandparents are on there, that type of stuff. I find the interaction over there is very different. I don't want to say it's worse, just to be a little bit more politically correct, but it's certainly different than you get on Google Plus. But I kind of want to echo what Keith said, and it's true. I mean, I know a lot of people that are disenchanted with Facebook and what they're doing, and you know, a lot of it's really interesting to look at the dichotomy of the tech industry and the websites and the tech journalism, how they're writing how Facebook's changing social and doing all this stuff. It's interesting to me because I find the basic, your average Facebook user to be like my wife. And the other morning after they announced the updates, she turned to me and she was like, how the hell do I find anything anymore on Facebook? And to me, that was very indicative of a challenge that they're going to have moving forward, let alone all the issues they always have with privacy. So I'm very selective of what I do over there. With my business page, I do echo what I do on my blog, but it's not like I do here on Google Plus. I mean, I spend majority of my social marketing time and social networking time on Google Plus these days because of the quality of interactions that you can't get anywhere else.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Would you? But I imagine that your business page on Facebook used to be, you know, one of your better social media outlets. Do you think it could return to being strong one day?
I don't think so, and the reason I don't think so is because of the difference in structure of the system between like a Google Plus, now that it's here and it's an option, and Facebook. And Facebook started out as, you know, basically for college students. It started out at Harvard, and it was meant to be interconnected with small groups of people, and everything that they've done up until their announcements on Thursday were based about that. It's always kind of these small knit groups. So even though I have 3,000 followers on Facebook, you put something out there and, you have 750 to 800, arguably, million people out there all joining these small little groups, whether it's a page, whether it's a group, whether they're just checking with their family. And I get, God, 1/50th of the interaction over there than I do here. And, it's always been helpful to my business. I'm not going to delete my Facebook page, but I don't count on it and I don't invest time into it because the interaction's here. And I think that's a big difference. I mean, being able to do these hangouts and interact with customers or clients, doing photo education pieces because I do so many workshops, I can interact with people on levels that were never possible before. And quality, and I think that's the biggest key, is quality interactions. Everything else is kind of stagnant. It feels stagnant on the internet now for social marketing or social media. Maybe it's just me and I'm biased, but there certainly is a difference out there.
Yes, there is a difference. Hey, we've been joined by Melissa Richardson. How are you, Melissa? Looks like we're looking at your fireplace. And you? Melissa, over. Google Plus calling, over. Well, maybe she has this muted. Oh. She's nodding at us knowingly. She has acknowledged us like we are sentient creatures. But she's not talking. Oh, maybe she's someplace where she's not allowed to talk.
Melissa, do you not have a mic?
Maybe she is not supposed to be on Google Plus. We don't know. Okay, she's just acting casual. She's talking.
She wrote something inside.
She's at work.
Oh, she said her kids. She doesn't want to unmute because you can hear the kids in the background.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Well, nice to see you, Melissa. If you have any questions, just type them there in chat. So, Christa, you're Mrs. Google Plus for sure. Are you? Tell us about some crazy Hangouts you've been in, or what do you see happening with Hangouts? Because you seem to be in them almost as much, or maybe even more than Shirley Lo.
Well, actually, something I should mention is in a few weeks we're going to be launching Hangout Academy, which is going to be it's top secret right now what the tools are, so I can't tell you. But if you are interested in hosting some Hangouts and things like that, let me know, and I might be able to give you a few more of the secrets.
Do you like how I set you up for that?
Yes, thank you.
This is one of Mansour's things, right?
Yes, Mohammed Mansour. If you go over to hangoutacademy.com, you can see all the team members and circle them, and we'll notify you when we launch.
Cool. That was a very mysterious pitch that you laid out there. So when you say Hangout Academy, it almost sounds like it's something that you go to find out how to use Hangouts, but that's not right, is it?
No, we're gonna have a bunch of tools and discovery tools and use tools for operating within Hangouts, and we're primarily trying to focus on education, but there are also going to be some other tools available. But
okay, so
sounds like schools in via Hangouts.
So let's say I'm going to pry a little bit, Christa, because I actually don't really know. So I'm going to pry. If I get too close to the mark, you can just seize up. But like, let's say that I'm a school kid and I'm really interested in learning French. Might I be able to use some of these tools to find some French Hangouts going on where I might be able to interact and up my game? Yes,
you will.
Okay, well that sounds cool.
20 questions here.
No, that sounds cool.
Yeah, the reason why we're keeping it secret because we want to make sure that that we don't have any tools that are in development that get released and get used by other groups or anything like that before we're ready to release the whole product. So
that sounds cool. All right, well we've done a whirlwind of activity, everything from photography to Hangouts to tech to storage to prints and everything. Does anyone have any final questions before we wrap it up, or anything else they didn't say they want to get off their chest to everybody?
I have a message from Jacob. He says, "Good day."
Yeah, he dropped out.
Yeah, he lost his connection before.
Poor guy. He was a delight. Any other final words or from anybody?
Well, this was a blast.
Yeah, it was fun. Keith, any burning questions out there that we missed?
Somebody was asking, can you give us some idea how much time you spend in HDR software like Photomatrix versus just doing straight Photoshop kind of processing?
Yeah, sure. I'll answer that to wrap this up, and then we'll call it a night. By the way, I think it's so funny how people always call it Photomatrix. I hear that time and time again. It's Photomatics. Not that I don't really care. I'm not a word Nazi like that. But anyway,
so I gel covers.
Yeah, well, no, I actually didn't even know if it was called Jelliskins or Gelliskins. He made me wonder when he said that.
Well, Colby likes to think of it as Photomatics.
Does he say Photomatics?
I make it up myself. No. Yeah, it sounds more appealing that way.
So anyway, I don't spend too long in Photomatics. I'm really fast because, I've done it so many times. It's possible that nobody on earth has used Photomatics more than me, and I love that thing. And so when I'm out taking the photos, even when I'm out there, just this morning, I was taking photos, and I know what my settings are going to be. Even before I sit down, I know where I'm going to put, my 8 favorite sliders. I just know generally where they're going to be. Sometimes I know exactly where they're going to be. So I get in and out of Photomatics pretty darn quick. And I don't batch anything in Photomatics because you have to move the sliders differently for every single situation. And then really, most of my time is spent in Photoshop cleaning up the mess that Photomatics makes. Because Photomatics is great, but it really only gets 50 to 80% of the photo looking good. And usually that last 20 to 50% is a disaster, and you need to go back and help that to look more realistic, or mix it with one of the original raws, and that does take a little bit of time because every situation is different. Shirley, what's your time like in those two things?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the same as yours. Start off with that and then fix it until I like how it looks like. And that's pretty much what we do. We just, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if the question was percentage of time or not. If it's percentage of time, it's only about 10% of my time is in Photomatics, maybe 20. The rest is in Photoshop. In terms of, absolute minutes, a photo can take me anywhere from 15 minutes. But remember, I'm very fast. I use a bunch of macros. I look like a Korean StarCraft player when I do photos. So it can take me anywhere from 15 minutes to, 3 or 4 hours. Sometimes I've worked on photos for 4 hours and I've just given up because I can't get anything to work. So it certainly depends. And I hate that answer when people ask you a question, you say, well, it depends. I think that's always just sort of an annoying answer, because as soon as someone says it depends, I almost tune out everything else they have to say after that. But it depends. All right.
How about you tune out lawyers?
I do tune out lawyers. But thank you for being here anyway, Christa. So thanks again, everybody. That was cool. Be sure to put your links to your work or your website or your business or whatever you want to do. Put that in the main thread for this thing so everyone can go check you out and see what you're all about. And thanks again very much. And I will talk to y'all later. Okay, bye.
Thanks, Trey.
Bye,
Thanks,
guys.
everybody.
Thank you.
Everyone wave bye to the crowd.
Adios.
The Miss America wave.
You do a good one.